that we raised. So it's not like self-indicting. We are not self-indicting ourselves here. So you may round up just to guide you.
That explanation should have been in the statement that the leader presented to us, Mr. President. And I'm therefore well guided by your projects, Mr. President, that we need to know those projects and then the issue of the replication at what point and by whom. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, I will suggest that we go for the second reading of this bill, and then the Committee on Appropriations looks into these issues. But I want to state categorically clear here that naturally there will be new projects in the budget, because these are projects of members of the National Assembly. They were not there at the inception. And all of us here know that we have our constituency projects. And therefore, there will be additional projects in the final. This matter very, very carefully to ensure that there is a balance. At the end of the day, either matching grants or some kind of, what do you call the other thing? The counterpart funding, that we maintain those. So I think you need to work very, very carefully. Senator Suswan.
Mr. President, concluded, but I just want to also guide the Appropriation Committee when they are considering it. That tax expenditure, whether that are given to individuals or companies. Mr. President, not just what the President has sent here. Let us consider those areas that can help them save money, because we might decide to step down on those tax expenditure. For let us know, arrest it. Let us know those people, and then how we can save monies from this tax expenditure to defray even the deficit. And the President.
Senator Mann.
I rise to support the AMOC on it, because the 2021 Appropriation Act will expire by the end of this month, so they look at this clause very seriously. BPP Act and the PPA Act, that's the Procurement Act, you will see that they are in direct conflict with them, except go and spend their own money the way they want, because in those procurement acts there are thresholds that agencies depart at past. So they need to look at that and make such amendments. But however, I do support this bill so that we can have the 2022 Appropriation Act in place to be able to be implemented and implementable. Thank you.
Those in favor of this bill will now read a second time say aye.
For a total sum of 499,052 naira only for capital expenditure, and 592,044 naira only for recurrent expenditures, and for other matters connected therewith. 2022 SB 950, second reading.
A bill for an act to amend the 2022 Appropriation Act, 499,052 naira only for capital expenditures, and 43,870,000,000 for 2022, second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Appropriation to report back within 1 week. Distinguished Senator Yaro, Binos Yaro, Adamawa South, point of order.
My point of order would have been valid if it had been taken before you put the matter. Cite my point of order. You have frustrated the issue I wanted to bring to the notice of the Senate. But notwithstanding, Mr. President, I am standing on a printed copy of the bill shall as soon as possible be sent to every senator on first reading. If definitely did not receive a question 2. On the second reading of a bill, an amendment may be proposed without notice to the question. So, Mr. President, how...
Binos Yaro, you raise an issue that you have not received. Then I think we should listen. comment on something that is not definite yet. Is it the leader or the Committee on Business Rules or the Appropriations? I know there was a letter, not a bill, seeking for the amendment. So, Chairman, Leader of the Senate, please.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, this particular issue arose from the letter sent by Mr. President. This letter, so I hope all senators could have read the copies of votes and proceedings. Now, since the information was not contained in a substantive bill, there was no substantive bill as such, it was a letter. Now, that letter or the executive needs to be looked at. Now, since it is a bill, it has now become our responsibility to make a presentation here, because it is seeking an amendment to an act. So our presentation here, which now is going to the Appropriations Committee, which in consultation with other committees will look into the observations that have been made by Mr. President, so that the relevant sections of the areas in the act that look into my presentation. What I said was that, from 1 to 11. And I did a presentation, not whether I support, it's not a way that I support their contention, no. I just listed those areas that they are requesting Senate to intervene, to act, and then address those areas, and then bring back an amendment to ask for consideration.
Thank you, Leader. The solution of I believe that the Committee on Appropriations will do the needful, get all the relevant 130 senators on the committee. So we expect our committee, and I pray you are a member of the Committee on Appropriations. Just like you, I'm not, you are also, okay. So some of us are out of it, but we should trust that our colleagues who are on the committee will do a thorough job and a very good job on the rest of us. And I didn't try anything is sustained. Thank you very much. So the Committee on Appropriations, you have 1 week. Ensure that you bring back the document to us, because the longer it stays, we may cause for the implementation of the 2022 appropriation bill. And we need the implementation of this 2022 appropriation to get it back in 1 week. It's an opportunity for me to speak to the issue of the executive sending request for the amendment of the Petroleum Industry Act to extend the provision of the fuel subsidy, which is also requested in the amendment, because the act itself says something else, that there will be no subsidy again. But if we are approving for subsidy, then it means we have to extend the period in which government will provide subsidy up to the point that this subsidy that will approve 2.557 trillion will last. So there is need to get that sorted out as quickly as possible, so that what we do is appropriate and is lawful and legal. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, of the day, candidate of the Federal College of Education, because that degree was read the first time in this distinguished chamber on Wednesday, 27th November 2019. Mr. President, we wish to invite distinguished Senator Ibrahim Yahaya Oloregbe to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
I will collect it.
Distinguished Senator Yahya Olurogbe.
Kwara Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise of the Federal Project of Education Special upon Kwara State and other matters related therewith. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, let me share the background of our teachers. Therefore, primary education should be one of the topmost priorities for the government. Primary education is a crucial stage and callings to state that the quality of teachers to provide this kind of education is deteriorating. A shortfall of teachers is one of the significant challenges of primary education. Have not employed teachers in primary schools since 2015. The national policy on education provides that for effective learning, the additional teachers to achieve. But unfortunately, the quality of teachers required is not available in the labor market. It is observed, Mr. President, with concern that the majority of teachers in primary schools are not trained. This legislative proposal will go a long way. The objectives of the bill include to establish federal college education in Afan Kwara State and for other matters, address the acute shortage of qualified teachers in primary school in Nigeria, meet the requirement of national policy on education of teacher-pupil ratio of 1:25. The summary of the bill, Mr. President, is that the bill has 28 clauses divided into 5 parts. Part 1 provides for the establishment, constitution, and functions of the federal to the procedure on bills in calling for attention. I shall submit, Mr. President.
Any comments? Distinguished Senator BKM.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Senator B.K. Amos, and I represent the people of Gombe South. I rise to support the bill, heavily moved by my colleague, distinguished Senator Olurogbe, for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, special in Afon, Kwara. If you need development, then there is a high premium placed on quality education. We need quality education in this part of the world. They need to establish a Federal College of Education in Afon. I think is a welcome development, and based on that, I'm calling on my colleagues and every other person who is here to support the second reading of this bill. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be now read.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Special, SB.
Distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the second reading of Alban Ikoku Federal University of Education established in 2022. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was last time in this chamber on Wednesday, 9th February 2022. Mr. President, you may wish to.
Francis Onyewuchi.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ezanwa Onyewuchi, and I represent Imo East Senatorial District. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues permit me to lead the debate on this very important bill titled Alvan Ikoku Federal University of Education, Owerri, of February 2020. Colleagues, this bill seeks Owerri to Alvans for its establishment, management, operations, and funding. The object of the Alvan Ikoku Federal University of Education establishment is to create and to develop and offer academic degrees in education, science, agriculture, commerce, abilities, stand of Nigeria as a nation, exploit existing educational needs of Nigeria as a nation system through postgraduate training, research, innovation, for effective economic utilization and conservation of the country's human resources. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the need to establish Alvan Ikoku Federal University of Education Owerri, whose sole objective will be, over the years, there has been sustained clamor for the upgrade of Alvan Ikoku Federal College of Education to a full-fledged degree award, been premised on certain status as the oldest teacher training college in Nigeria. The establishment of Alvan in 1963, just institution solely disposed to research, teaching, and training of teachers for both the intermediate and higher education sectors. The college has in the past 50 years contributed to the Center of Excellence in Education. Notably, Alvan is part of the last 3 decades. 15. College of Education Owerri. The purpose of this upgrade was to ensure quality teacher education will be to identify the educational needs of national development. While it may be acknowledged that Alvan has played its role to some extent, there is still doubt that the quality of student education has a long history of producing high-quality teachers. However, this curriculum and certification has limited their capacity to do so. Alvan is a quick institution, has staff strength. To a large extent, Alvan as a federal college has been able to generate funds on its own, which will be further sustained, prepared to take on the status of a University of Education, and the impact of this upgrade is promising, looking at the antecedents of the schools as enumerated, received by teachers in Nigeria, and also improve the upgrading the College of Education to a university will provide employment and accelerate socio-economic development. Once again, I want to stress that it simply proposes the upgrade of Alvan from a Federal College of Education to a Federal University of Education. And the institution is prepared and ready to take on the status of a university. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the need and importance.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, in supporting the timely proposal, Mr. President, I had the privilege of presenting the memo to the then Federal Executive Council that approved, among other colleges, that Federal College of Education, Alvan Ikoku, be upgraded to a University of Education. The others were FCE Kano, FCE Zaria, and Adeyemi College of Education, Akure. Mr. President, even among the 4, as at that time, Alvan Ikoku, by our findings, 7 years ago, had spent more than 3 decades, as mentioned by the removal of them, though affiliated to another university. And 50 PhD, there wasn't any cost. The only thing that needs to be added is the appointment of a vice chancellor. But Alvan Ikoku has all the structures. All that needs to be done is to process the legal framework to establish it as a University of Education. And furthermore, Mr. President, quality teachers for our primary and post-primary institutions. This will raise the standard and the performance and the quality of our education in our schools. As we always say, there is no education system that can grow higher than the quality of its teachers. And by this, the quality of both primary and post-primary institutions. With this, Mr. President, I support the motion that...
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. This bill, the teachers that we need, both it will close the gap that is existent in our educational system right now. Alvan Ikoku College, a college of education, development in the area of the style of teaching, pedagogy, and will enhance the distinguished senators to support this bill. Thank you very much.
Those who know that this will be not read the second time, say aye. Those against say nay, say aye. The clerk will send it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Those who know that this will be not read the second time, say aye. Those against say nay, say aye. The clerk will send it. Thank you very much. Those against say nay, say aye. The clerk will send it.
Mr. President, University of Education, and for other matters connected therewith, 2022, SB 918, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Alvan Ikoku Federal University of Education and for other matters connected there to 2022
Session of the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Tech Fund on the FCT University of Science and Technology Abaji Establishment Bill 2022. The distinguished senators will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 6 October 2021. The presentation and consideration of the report. In his absence, I would like for the chairman to invite the distinguished senator, Professor. No, it's on the honor. Right.
Sunday honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, we have Federal University of Environmental Technology, Kuruma Sakpewa Tai Ogoni.
You should read what is there. And each one needs to be seconded.
Yes, now, let me on the Senate.
President, my name is Senator Abba Moro, Plenary South. I rise to second be accepted and considered, ably moved by my colleague, Professor Sandy Ono, Senator. Thank you, Mr. President.
Did you move all the two? Okay, you seconded for all the two. The Distinguished Committee on Tertiary Institutions and on the Federal University of Environmental Technology, Koroma, Sakpewa, Tai, Ogoni, River State, Establishment Bill 2022. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have